A good boss can make a bad job bearable, but a bad boss can make even a good job terrible. And I never experienced good leadership with a couple of exceptions I already mentioned. There was a lot of terrible leadership because you weren't promoted for your leadership ability. You're promoted because you've been there a long time and you can pass a test.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Visionary Leader Podcast with Jim Robinson. I'm your co-host, Lori Prust. And guess what, Jim?
Game time. Let's go to work.
Let's go. Okay, so we have Tim Keck with us. Tim, it's so good to meet you. And I have a long list of amazing things that tell us just a lot about you. So I'm just going to list a few. I'm sure I'm missing some, but a best-selling author, top-rated speaker, court-certified expert in threat management. Over your career, you've been a police officer, SWAT leader, chief of police, testified before Congress. He's like, yep. Led multinational undercover investigations, provided protection for celebrities, and advised organizations around the world. And you help people stay safe, right? Manage risk. And I looked at your website and I'm just in awe of all the different ways that we need to be thinking about safety, just sharing all the offerings and things that are out there. And so I'm so excited to hear more from you today, and also how decisions are made in such high pressure situations and what you've had to deal with. So I'm really looking forward to today.
Awesome. Well, we can take this conversation anywhere you want to go.
You're right.
He did all that by like a Wednesday. Like, come on. That was the short list of Tim. Come on. Yeah. Let's go to work here. Let's do some discovery, man. Let's get some stuff out. We call it value bombs, Tim. We call it value bombs. We drop some value bombs on our listeners. We like to give them some pieces they can take away. And I do the same thing. I got my journal open. I'm ready to go. I take copious notes. So if I zone out for a minute, I may look down, but I'm just writing notes because I'm getting some new value bombs on my own. So that's really what we want to do. We want to talk about some cool stuff. People that our listeners are dying to hear from experienced people in this space. And there's no hold barred. We go wherever this goes. And as Lori calls it, sometimes we might go off-roading. So if we get off, man, let's just take it and go. Drop value bombs on the way.
Tighten your seatbelt.
Our listeners will love it. Yeah, let's go. Yeah.
So one important nugget I did not bring up, Tim. Improv? So tell me about improv, all right? I caught on to that. There's a laugh in what you do. So tell me more.
It seems to not fit with anything else I do. But I know a lot of this is about relationship, right? And one of my relationships caused me to get an email several years ago that said, "Hey, I've got a friend who's trying to put together this comedy improv class, and we're like 3 people short. Would you be interested in coming? And do you know somebody?" So I talked to my wife. I was like, "Laura, we should do this together." Right?
Ooh,
it's an adventure. I'm a big adventure guy. So clearly the, line of work I've been in, I like the unknown. So we decided to do it together, and it was an amazing course. We liked it so much that we partnered with another person in the class who we just met and formed a troupe. And once we got together and played together for several months, we took it on the road, so to speak. We started performing for pay at local venues.
Oh.
Did that for 6 years.
Wow.
And
holy crap.
The thing I would say about improv is, everybody should take a course. It just makes you better at life. Because when you study improv, nothing anyone can throw at you throws you off. Because you're just used to, the core concept of improv is yes and. Right? You say yes to what your scene partner brings you, and you add your best to it. Now take that attitude and put it on a team, and what do you get? Mm-hmm. You get fantastic teamwork. Wow. And you get a team that you throw whatever at us you want, we got it. We'll yes and you all day long, right? And so it made me, I already had a lot of experience, from the stage and teaching courses and stuff, mm-hmm. and it probably made me twice as good a speaker because, once again, it doesn't matter. And I often challenge audiences to challenge me. I'm teaching you important things that might save your life. And if I stand up here and say something and you think to yourself, well, that's a bunch of crap, that'll never work. I need you to raise your hand and say, that's a bunch of crap, that'll never work. I can't explain it, demonstrate it, or justify it. I probably shouldn't be up here saying it. It's that important. And so, improv is so much fun.
And then you calmly remove them from the audience and keep moving on.
Get them out.
Get them out. That's security.
Yeah. So I just love your ability to be flexible and how that fits in. I have my pen too going, Jim, down here. Does laughter fit in here with as serious as your past has been?
Oh, laughter is absolutely the most important thing to survive law enforcement, first of all.
Wow.
Right? If you don't have some levity, which leads me, I suppose, the two things I often tell audiences, because I have a whole section of my career that's on leadership and teamwork. And then the other part of my career that's on keeping people safe through managing threats. And so when I'm doing a threat management course, I'll give them an invitation to challenge me, like I just illustrated. But the other thing that I will often do is I will say, and it's just happened, just last week, where were we? Oh, we were Reno. We were in Reno doing a course. And I told the group, or I asked the group, how many of you would admit to being a smartass? How many? And every time a few hands go, everyone laughs, a few hands go up, right? And I know there are other hidden smartasses in the room, but they're hesitant to reveal themselves. But we figure that out as the day goes on. And I say, look, it's a heavy topic. I mean, like for instance, Reno was an active shooter class.
Mm.
We're talking about mass murder. It's murder class. So if you're going to talk about murder class, we got to figure out a way to inject some humor. And one way to do that is I invite you, if I say something and you have a smart aleck comment, throw it out. Don't ask for permission. Don't raise your hand. Just shout it out. We'll all laugh and move on. Then I give my HR disclaimer and then we move forward. Right? So laughter helps keep us sane, right? Life's too short not to laugh. Life's too long not to laugh. Any way you look at it. We should be having fun. We should be doing something we love. So every day at some level is fun.
Awesome. Let's jump into some questions here, Lori.
Yeah. Absolutely. So
let's dig deep.
We're going to go deep in mentorship. And when I think about your career, Tim, and everything that you've done, I would think, a normal question would be, who did you have that was a mentor? But you've had so many different experiences and things that you've done. What does mentorship been in your career? Tell me if you've had multiple. Has it had a place?
I have. I think in a word, mentorship is invaluable, right? And anyone who's succeeded in all likelihood has been mentored at some level, I think my first mentor was my father. He set a very good example, which is something that we all need in our lives. The absence of a father causes many, many problems, and we're seeing those societally today. And then in law enforcement, I had a couple of different mentors, and I can dig in. We can go as deep and spend as much time on this as you want. As you can tell, I can talk. And then I developed yet another mentor at the end of my career that took me into what happens after police work. And I definitely have to share all of that story because it's so pertinent to mentorship.
So when you had these different mentors, did you go seek them or was it organic? Did someone say, Tim, you need a mentor?
No.
No.
I mean, look, I became a cop in 1979. The word mentorship was not in my vocabulary or probably anyone else I worked with. Mentorship began to be a thing, in the late 80s, 90s, when it really became, something
late
that
80s, I would say.
We recognized it was important and we should try and do it. So no one ever said that. You have someone, and I think it always starts with this. You have someone who takes an interest in you as a human being, not just as a position on org chart or what your name tag says, right, or what your badge says, but they take an interest in you. And I had a guy named Pete Isles. Pete's still around. He was a shift sergeant when I was on his shift, and he took an interest in me, and we kind of had some things in common. He is a Vietnam vet, And so, I wasn't. I was just a little too young for that. But I spent a lot of time. He would ride with me to. He could ride. He had his own car, of course, and then on the shift, he could choose to ride with one of his officers. He often rode with me, and we built a relationship, built some trust, and he became a great mentor. And then he would be promoted to lieutenant, so he'd left the shift. And then I found another guy named Mike Mann. Mike had been in the military, and Mike, I, I, I think I learned how to bring from Pete. I learned how to bring your faith to work and not abandon, no matter how bad the stuff is that you see, not abandon your faith. And then Mike taught me more about how to lead because he was for much longer. We got hired not too far apart. He got promoted before me. He was a little older, had a lot more experience, was a supervisor in the military. And so I watched him lead really, really well. And and although it was not a formal mentoring relationship, it very much was that in truth.
Yeah, I think people that end up leading at some level and mentoring others, they, at some point, one, they were mentored not even knowing.
Yeah.
And I always say, I speak about, the first teacher that impacted you. Of course, mom, dad, or grandparents, aunts, uncles, somebody was mentoring us all along. But that first or second grade teacher, everybody even present in this call can tell you who it is. And I always talk
yeah.
100%. And that person impacted you. For me, is Miss Boyage, and she had polio, first grade. We sat in the corner. She couldn't sit. She had to be in a chair. The rest of us sat on the floor, and she'd read. And she was magnificent at reading. She would bring you into the story. And I learned that you can endure no matter what is in your life. You can keep enduring. And that was mentorship. In first grade, it started for me. Later in life, it started to where I had to pay attention. Now I'm seeking it. Because now as I was becoming more aware, and I'm like, man, hold on, that person could be a great man. I better go gravitate. I better go figure out how to have a dinner and break bread with those people because I'm about to learn some crazy stuff and they don't even know yet. But it's literally, there's mentors everywhere. And I think for our listeners even, it's paying attention to that and being intentional about who is the mentor? Who do we align with? Who's going to align with us well? Who has some shared common interests that we can really mesh? And then how do we get that gift from them, right? That all that experience, that life, how do we get that gift out of them? It's ask better questions. It's be totally in tune with them, but give of your time to that mentor and hear them out. It's Miss Boyajian for me really set it for me at first grade. And I didn't care after that. I just loved Miss Boyajian. And I felt I had, that's really empathy for me, is that really was where I started figuring, wow, she's in pain. And I could feel that. And it was a state of sadness for me. So I learned empathy. And I'm like, man, I got to figure that out. And so there was a trajectory from that. It literally put me on a trajectory to figure other things out. Even at first grade, I started figuring, man, I got to pay attention. I got to ask better questions. I can look like an idiot, but I'm still going to ask more questions.
What a gift, right?
What a gift it was.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
So, value bomb, you have to be curious. You have to be open. That's what I hear you both saying. So for anybody listening, you need to pay attention and be observant and be willing to be a sponge and dig into what you're feeling, what you need. And so without that, this doesn't work, right?
Yeah. No, it simply doesn't. You have to, I mean, I think we're teaching people to seek out good mentors, and you have to be very careful who your mentors are.
Yeah.
I got a friend, a guy named Dave Grossman, who's a Pulitzer-nominated author and taught psychology at West Point. One of the things I learned from him many years ago was, in law enforcement, you got to be very careful how you pick your heroes, right? Because it's okay to be a John Wayne, but you can't be a Dirty Harry. Because your heroes, that's maybe how you want to model yourself. Same thing with mentorship. You got to be very careful who you choose.
Mm-hmm.
If you go the wrong route, that gets you in trouble.
Wow,
that's a really good nugget. So what is something, you talk about Pete and Mike got some value bomb writing going down here. What did one of them tell you about yourself that you didn't see, or see in yourself that you didn't see early on? Some strengths that you just didn't see that they brought forth?
Yeah. So I think that might be best illustrated by Mike Mann. Mike has passed away. He passed away last year, but we never lost contact. He left the police department not too long. He was there for 3 or 4 years, and then he left and became the security director for Macy's.
Wow. Okay.
You never know where people are going to wind up, right?
Yeah.
And Mike was the one who I think pointed out that I had no idea. I just wanted to be a cop. Drive fast, chase bad guys. That's what I wanted to do. And I was getting to do it. And it was boy, I have a story about that. But anyway, it was the greatest thing ever, like they're paying me to do this. What? Right? Is that whole attitude. And he led me to believe that I could be a leader. And that, and not to hold back from, as you might guess, in law enforcement, most people become very, very cynical very, very quickly. And to be cynical is to be contemptuously distrustful of human nature and motive. Yes, I memorized that because it's just so true, and once you become cynical, you start holding back because you don't want to be vulnerable at all, even to the people you work with, right? You might have this one mate that you can be close with and be honest, but so I'm rather effusive, and I can, I like I like talking to people, and I love people, and I love, entertaining people and teaching people. And he taught me not to be afraid of that. Because once he became a sergeant, he was like, you should be the next sergeant. You think? Why would anyone listen to me? And he started helping me recognize the traits in myself I simply didn't recognize.
Yeah, I think mentorship, that's part of it. I mean, I think the mentor that happens to show up at the right moment, the right time by, I say, our creator. Somebody placed that person there at the right time.
No coincidence.
There is no coincidence. I believe they do see in us before we are even close to self-aware.
Yeah.
And then that mentor, all of a sudden you start to gravitate to something that they're teaching or you're learning from them, and you're like, whoa, that's the self-aware. And then we become better at asking a better question of that mentor. But mentors, I think when they show up, man, it's just perfect timing every time. And then we become self-aware. So now we know what we don't know. And then all of a sudden, wow, we can be smarter, better questions. And that's when we say, whoa, that's a mentor, man. I'm going to follow this person. They're going to teach me something. I got to gravitate. And then you bug them. Like you're just going to go be on their shirt tail and you're just going to go everywhere with these guys.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Pretty crazy. Like, speaking of cops, I got to give a shout out to Luke Christopherson, Mesquite, Texas right now. He's 12 or 13 years as a cop. I always go to bed saying a prayer for him because I worry about everybody that's a cop. I'm a Blue Line guy. I support locally. I'm building a house. I'm going to do a first responder party just for the locals because they all come see me. I'm going to do this for these guys because I think they're super special. Luke is a super special guy, and I guarantee you he's been masterful at finding the right mentors at the right time, or vice versa. Those mentors have showed up at the perfect time for him, and he's done exceptionally well. He's grown unbelievable, and he's right on the forefront of my thoughts today because he's going to come see us in about 30 days here. He's passing through town. I get to hang out with this guy. And I'm 60, he's 30, and I'm telling you, I can learn from this guy. It doesn't matter age. That's a moot point. Mentors can be mentors. It doesn't matter. You could learn from the 18-year-old. You can learn from the 80-year-old. There's something to everybody in between. I do believe they show up not by coincidence, but by impeccable timing.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
So kind of a plot twist, Tim. Have you gotten feedback or been challenged by a mentor that caused you to redirect or do something different, change your way, change your path? Anybody challenge you that really made a significant difference?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, my earlier mentors, we can't forget, my big mentorship story is about the end of the police career moving into what I do now. So I don't, that's Bill. We have to talk about Bill.
Okay.
He's the number one guy.
Okay.
In the last 25 years for me. But yes, Mike was very quick to point out that sometimes I need to keep my big fat mouth shut. Well, he would encourage me to be myself and let all the joy and fun and excitement come out. You can't do that all the time. Sometimes you just need to shut up and listen, and which he was not at all afraid to tell me, which is kind of the way I need it. I don't know about y'all, but I need to be sometimes slapped in the face, to get my attention. And yes, and I learned a lot from him about look, you can have fun, but there are times when you need to turn that off. Because and that's I'm talking primarily relationships with people you work with and stuff, but also as a cop, sometimes you're in situations where where what is applicable is quiet and understanding and empathy, and and here we are over here. That's the 18th dead body I've seen this month. So we're over here making jokes, ordering lunch, right? Well, the coroner's there and the family is within earshot. We look like complete assholes. We didn't mean disrespect, but the image that you promote, which you have to be so careful to cultivate, or at the very least not damage. And I was the guy who'd be over here yucking it up half a block away when someone just died. But for me, that was my fifth one. For the family members who might be on scene or just the bystanders, they've never seen that before. Right. And it took me a while to figure out how to be empathetic, even when it's not necessarily about feeling it, but sometimes just about being quiet and respectful.
Yeah. Some of that's coping skills too. I mean,
it is. That's where it comes from.
It's 100%.
You can't take all that death and destruction that you see.
Yeah.
And take that to all that to heart. Now, what we're not good at in police work, and we should be better as, what you should do is you should take that, think about that, pray about that, dare I say, and mourn, and then release it.
Yeah.
Right? But all too often, we're so busy with that professional detachment, getting the job done, that we never do that mourning part. We just show up and, and it bothers, especially if it's a child. And man, I have horrific stories about that. But, and when I first started doing a lot of speaking outside of police work, I found myself telling stories that were a little too graphic for people who have not lived that life and seen that stuff. I had a guy come up to me afterward at a client and said, Tim, that was good, but you got to be careful going that deep with people.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you know what? For me, it's just a story.
Right.
But it happened. I was there. I saw it, but for someone who's never seen the sorts of things that I've witnessed, they don't want to. And I don't blame them. I don't want that for them either.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I got a quick story from a mentor of mine, John is his name, and he's still around. He's 88, goes to the office every day.
Wow.
To this day. Loves what he does. He's a very passionate guy. And he came up to me one day and he just says, Jim, are you happy? I'm like, well, what the hell kind of comment is that? What the hell's the matter with you? In my gruff way. And he was spot on. And it literally, that's what sent me on a trajectory of psychology and trying to figure me out and what the hell what was I doing? I was working really long days, and I can give you the whole page of excuses, but I wasn't paying attention to my demeanor and what I was appearing like, and I was appearing pretty gruff. I later discovered that you got to go to that same state that you learned in to be able to use what you learned. And for me to get there, I had to go into this very structured, very, very focused state, because that's how I read, that's how I learn, that's how I receive stuff that's being taught to me. I'm very focused. And so for me to regurgitate and use that content, I got to be very focused. I got to be very in tune with what that is. And sometimes that could be skewed as unhappy. And when he said that to me, I'm like, wow, I got to find a better way to tap the stores, tap that knowledge that I have. But I got to do it in a more calming way. And so guys like him, John, great friend, I've known him now for 42 years, like people like that, real smart guy, shrewd business guy, why would he ask? Well, are you happy? I'm like, some bitch, of course I'm happy. What's your problem? Yeah. The reality is my appearance was not. And I was working days and nights, and I had to figure that out. And so I learn differently today. And of course, I have very different mentors around me. They're not as focused, structured. They're a little bit more like Tim, a little more upbeat, a little more going. And you get a lot of content either way, but it also helps you come out that same way. So how you learn things is also the state you got to be in to use what you've learned.
Yeah, so true.
I'd love to hear about Bill.
Yeah, let's do this. Bill, I get an invitation to meet Bill. That's all I know. Let's go.
All right. So when I was police chief, one thing I wanted to do was get really good leadership training for my people, because I recognize that, your boss is a super important individual in your life that can like I've often told people, a good boss can make a bad job bearable, but a bad boss can make even a good job terrible. And so I never experienced good leadership, with a couple of exceptions I already mentioned. There was a lot of terrible leadership because you weren't promoted for your leadership ability. You're promoted because you've been there a long time and you can pass a test.
Right.
Not a good reason, right? So I had a relationship with the local businessman, Bill Adams. And I was telling Bill about, I need to find a good trainer. And, I knew some really great law enforcement trainers and speakers, but they were, they're national speakers and you can't get them to. I wanted this to be a 6-month long meeting once a month, all day. I wanted people to walk out really learning things that they could use and practical, but impactful and blah, blah, blah. He said, man, I know a guy you need to meet. And his name's Bill Oden. And Bill is an internationally known speaker and trainer. And now he just retired from Denver to Rogers, Arkansas, living on the lake.
Right.
I was like, sounds great. So we met for lunch, met Bill. We totally hit it off. And kind of just became friends. And I, we just talk on the phone. I tell him, sing the woes of being a law enforcement leader in a city and, the politics and all this stuff. And I started talking to him about getting him putting together. I went and watched him speak. He had a local event. I went and watched him speak and I was like, oh, this guy is so good. It's exactly what we need. Very personable, it was great. So he put together a proposal for me for this long-term leadership program. And he included executive coaching for me and my top 3 guys. Like, I didn't know what that meant, y'all. Never even heard of it. Right? I'm a coach has a whistle. That's all I knew. So I accepted the proposal, got it signed off on, and we began the thing. And he started hanging out more with me. And at that time, I had been speaking on active shooter prevention, workplace violence prevention, all because of, and this is another long story that we don't have time for, but there was a time in the 80s when a local bad guy committed a double homicide, kidnapped his ex-wife, walked in the front door of my police department, shot one of my friends 3 times, and took over the building. And we had seen this violence in this guy growing and getting worse, but we didn't know what to do about it. I mean, if we could make a case, we arrested him. We arrested him many times. But it was not enough to prevent this mass murder and shooting up of the police department. Well, anyway, that set me on, like you said earlier, set me on a path of set me on a path of trying to figure out how you prevent targeted violence. Okay? So all of that has been happening. And Bill comes in and develops this relationship, and he starts going with me as I do the speaking engagements, free, pro bono, courtesy of the police department. We wanted to partner with the business community, teach them how to prevent targeted violence. And he came one time and watched me speak at an event at the local hospital. And after he sat there with me all afternoon, it's a 4-hour course. And afterward, he came up to me and he said, I don't know if you know this, but you're really good at this. I said, well, thanks, Bill. And I had lots of people compliment me and my ability to present and stuff. He goes, no, you don't understand. No, I mean, In the company I've been working for the last 20 years, we believe we take the top 3% of trainers in the world that can work for us. He said, you could have worked for us. You're that good. I said, really? Well, this is a guy who does this for a living, which made a much bigger impact than just an audience member who said, hey, that was really impactful. Thank you for spending the day with us, right? So, okay. So this has happened. Now we're teaching this course. It's going great. Bill starts this executive coaching. So I'm having these one-on-one sessions with him on the phone. I'm learning. It's really good. And then, and one day he says, so, you got your time in, you can leave anytime you want. I said, yep, sure can. He goes, well, what are you going to do? I said, I think I'm going to go to Walmart and work in executive protection. Kind of have a standing offer, got a relationship there, and get on the big jet, fly around the world, do that for a few years, and maybe I'll start my own thing. I don't know. He goes, well, you don't sound too excited. I said, well, I mean, I don't know that I am that excited. He goes, well, blue sky, buddy. You could do anything. What would it be? Anything? Yeah. I want to do what you do. He goes, well, why don't you? Because I'm a cop. I don't have business experience, although I actually did. I always had a side business because my entrepreneurial drive would not let me, and of course in law enforcement, you are strapped down with all these rules and the way we've done it and the traditions, and nothing wrong with that to a certain degree. But man, it was, I was on the edge of being fired almost every month of my entire career because I pushed the edge all the time. Right. So I was like, I'm a cop. What would anyone want to know about leadership from me? He said, Tim, you make decisions where if you're wrong, people die. He goes, they'll want to hear from you. Ding. Really? I could do that? He goes, yeah, you can do that. So, he completed the thing. I worked another year, quit, and went to work with Bill. And Bill mentored me, and he'd been mentoring me for 2 years. He really, and then of course now my full-time job is, we got this thing going together where we're doing speaking and training, and he got a coaching certification. He started doing full-time coaching, and I was doing the training, and mentored me for 3 years, got cancer, and died. Just like that.
Wow.
Yeah. But boy, I learned more from him in those 3 years of intensive, co-work and mentoring and coaching. Learned so much from him so fast. In the last 4 months of his life, he asked me if I would coach him because he knew he was going to die. It's pancreatic cancer. He'd had the big surgery, which means he was cancer-free for about 30 days. And he knew it was done. And so it was a very weird, completion of the circle kind of an event for me to get to coach him, which led me to go on and get my coaching certification.
Right.
But anyway, it's a bittersweet story because he passed away. But it's one of the best relationships, most productive. He's one of the few guys that my wife says, he's one of the few guys that can handle you. And handle me, he did.
Yeah, wow.
And I would be working, y'all, for 1/10 of what I work for now because he taught me the value of what I can bring. Wow. We developed this thing together called, the team building thing called CSIU. And that's when CSI was on 3 nights a week, right? We would take a corporate team out to an alleyway, chalked it out, crime scene tape, blood, hair, fingerprints, and give them a crime scene kit and say, tell me who did it. And in the process, learn what it takes to not only do that, but to work together and all the things to be learned. And at the end, if they did it right, and they all did, but some needed more coaching than others. In the end, they would find that the killer had another target, and they would find him before he committed the next crime and put handcuffs on him, and that was the end. We were in the New York Times with that.
Wow.
Thanks to Bill.
Yeah. Go Bill, man. So Bill impacted a lot of lives, changed a lot of lives that have gone on to change a whole lot more lives.
Yeah.
Not only through you, Tim, but so many others. I mean, when you mentor, you coach, man, you don't know how big of an impact you have on the one that has the 10, that has the other 10, and the multipliers, the 10x, the 20x.
Yeah.
It's so impactful. And when you tell a story about somebody, they just come back to life. Their stories come back to life, and then they keep mentoring. Their legacy doesn't ever go away.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome stuff, man. That was a moving story. Wish I'd known Bill. I'd love to have been coached by Bill.
Oh, you'd love him. He was great.
Yeah. I like cops they used to just be crotchety, cranky guys, and you probably weren't one of those.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they get their freedom like on the other end of their career, and then they just become these jovial, different people. And I got friends of them. My wife and I, this I'm gonna squeal a little bit here because it was a little rough. My wife and I decided to take a dance lesson several years ago. We both have two left feet, so it really became interesting to learn how to dance. And so we befriended this guy. He was a sheriff at the time, and we just hit it off. This guy's just super cool. His name's Bill. His wife's named Terry, and maybe they'll hear this show one day. But they live in San Diego, and we just would tell these stories. And so I was the only non-cop invited to his retirement party.
Wow.
That was very odd because cops only do cops on retirement, and maybe a significant other, but that's it. And I'm the non-cop. I've never been a cop. And so I'm there. And so a guy goes around and they're looking for stories. I'm like, well, I got a good story, man. I went to a dance lesson with this guy, and they're like, no way. You're going up there. You got to tell this story. So I had to narc out old Bill on the stage up there and tell him about how the dude was really a good dancer. And he really came out of his shell, and he was just he is a super cool guy. He ended up moving on to FBI, and he figured out with the FBI, you can, of course, work the court, and that's a much less threat than being on the beat, being out in the streets. And so he worked the FBI thing in the federal courts. So you end up double dipping. So you got your city, and now you get state, and now you got feds. And so he finally retired again just a few years ago, actually. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to go to that party. But yeah, I was the only non-cop. And they're like, you got to be there. And I was just like, man, I'm stoked. I thought it was an honor. The non-blue guy shows up, and
It
he's
is
the
an
blue
honor.
guy.
It's a big
It
deal.
is an honor. It was a big deal.
That's trust is what that is.
It was. It was a lot of trust. I felt honored to be there. But and then they asked me to speak for this guy, and I'm like, I'm in, man, because I want to blow this up. Yeah, he was like Fred Astaire. He was the great dancer out of the whole group. And so it's literally, how do they come out of their shell? He found dance, and his wife and him, they're a little older than we are, but they're still dancing, and they loving all the grandkids and so on. So he would be, I'd say, a mentor to me. He's just super level-headed guy, just calm. The stories, man, the stories back from
we all
the
got
80s.
stories.
The stories of the 80s was a very different officer today. Like, it was completely different. And so I happened to be privy to a lot of those stories. And I'm like, whoa, I'm glad I never got arrested back then.
I'm just sitting here thinking so much how a mentor isn't just this formal thing that's scripted, that you go.
Yeah.
There's some big takeaways, I think, they're organic. And a lot of times our mentors can see things we just cannot see. Look for the good ones. I heard you say that, Tim. Like, look for the ones that match your character, your values, things like that. But how great that people are looking out for us, and that it's a match, and they're stepping into us, towards us. And just, I don't know, I've always thought of it as it's kind of formal, but it's not. It's just such a great conversation, and that there are organic. And the more that we talk, I'm like, gosh, there's so many mentors in our lives. The more that you both share. I've had them too, where they're not necessarily, I'm your mentor with a name tag. I'm leaning in. I see value in you, and I care about you. And that's just been great to hear.
It's the guilty by association, as Tim would probably very much relate to. The guilty by association. Make sure in mentorship you're associating with the right mentor, because it's going to lead you in the positive direction or a negative. punks on the street, guilty by association because they're hanging out with other punks.
Okay.
Guilty by association of excellence leads to more excellence. Make sure you associate with the right mentors.
Boy, it's so true. I don't know if you guys ever remember an old guy named Charles Tremendous Jones. If you've ever read any of his stuff, I got to spend a little time with him. And he used to say, who you are now versus who you are in 5 years is based on two things: the people you meet and the books you read.
Yeah.
If you expand that a little farther, it's exactly what you said. The people that you hang out with, right?
That's right.
One of the big discussions when I teach Bulletproof Leader that we talk about is so what do you think? Are people basically good or are people basically bad? Because what you believe is going to impact the way you treat them, right? Pygmalion effect at the extreme level and all this stuff, right? And it makes for a very interesting discussion because most people want to say, well, people are basically good. And what it turns out is that people are basically both. It's all about their environment, right? The culture that they immerse themselves in, who is impacting them. Because you could turn out to be a really good person or a really horrible person, and that's probably going to be impacted the most by the people that you surround yourself with.
Yeah. Guilty by association.
I guess.
Exactly what you said.
Wow.
Tim, it's been really wonderful to have you and sharing your time and your experience. We are really grateful. So as we wrap up, what is a big value bomb we can give to our listeners and watchers? What would you share with the group as we head out?
As to mentorship or as to threat management or as to leadership?
As to what Tim would say, the greatest nugget you can give us today.
Oh, my.
The pressure.
I mean, I've been asked this question lots of times, and it kind of depends because of the ridiculous amount of variation in my experience. I would say, I want to hit at least two different points. If you're thinking about, we live in a difficult time, right? Where there are more people right now who see violence as a viable alternative than have ever existed in this country. I mean, a viable alternative to disagreement. You don't agree with me, and therefore it's okay for me to hurt you. Right. Okay? So I would say when it comes to anything having to do with survival, violence, those sorts of things, the number one thing is always going to be this. It's always going to be trusting your own instincts. It's really that. If you think something's wrong, something probably is wrong. And that applies to someone you work with, the person you see in the parking lot, walking down a city sidewalk. It doesn't matter. When you think something's wrong, something probably is wrong. And your instincts will let you know, and then they will tell you what to do, and you need to do exactly what they tell you at that exact time. The difficulty is never picking up on signals if you're willing to listen. The difficulty is having the courage to take the step and do something different. Okay? So that's the heavy part. But the next part, if you're a leader or you want to be, I think there's two things you need to do every single day. And that is, number one, is you need to, before you send an email, before you open your mouth, before you send a text, you should ask yourself, is this thing I'm about to do or say create more clarity or less? And if the answer is, I'm not sure, then it's less. And you need to reword it, rethink it, rephrase it, because everything you do as a leader either creates confusion or clarity. It's a pass-fail, right? It's never, well, I'm not sure. Oh, yeah, then that means just you're making things worse, right? People look to you for clarity. As a leader, you got to give them that. And the second thing is, this next question is this thing I'm about to do or say create more trust or less trust? Because if you can create clarity and build trust, you will, by definition, be more successful as a leader.
And in career and in whatever you're chasing.
Fill in the blank, 100%.
Period. Yeah.
So those are my top two in two completely different realms.
So good, Tim.
Yeah, we say build or destroy. It doesn't do both. Everything you do builds or destroys.
Yep.
Not both.
Not both.
This has been an awesome time together.
Thank you guys so much for inviting me.
Yeah, Tim, it was a great meeting you today. Having you on the show has been a spectacular blessing and an honor. Being able to hear from guys that have done what you guys do. That's a calling. And our listeners should never take that lightly. We should consider that a blessing every single time we walk across or come in contact with another officer. They're keeping the land safe. They're keeping our families safe. When we need them most is when they show up. We need them to be jovial. We need them to be light at some level so they can do it again, because it's going to happen again and again and again, and today more than ever. So thank an officer the next time you see him. I'm grateful for Tim for what he's done and the mentor and the leadership he has become. That's impactful and that's powerful and that's changing lives. And he did it in his whole career, and he'll continue to do that. One of my blessings today, I've had many, but Tim happened to be the big blessing today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Lori.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you very much.